Greetings, wise ones. This is Melissa from Eighth House Wisdom, author, astrologer, and transformational coach that can help you reveal your unique and infinite possibilities. I'm back with an October in 2020 installment of the Universal Laws video series, and today we're here to talk about the year that is 2020 and the law of obedience. This year in particular has caused many of us to have to submit and to check in with how obedient we are with events, habits, and things that show up in our lives, especially when we have no real control over them. A lot of the interrupting forces that we've experienced this year have to do with things completely out of our control. Now, of course, we could do a whole video here about how maybe some of the things that we're dealing with are in other people's control and they botched it. But that's not the subject of what we're talking about today. So, the first thing that I want to do is just read out what the law of obedience speaks about, coming from Bob Proctor and the Proctor Gallagher Institute, and then just talk a little bit about what the law of obedience really means for us, specifically in this critical year, um, where there's been a lot of change, a lot of difficulty, and we're coming up on election day, and there's still a bit more obedience and obedient lessons for us to take in. So, the law of obedience states when we understand the laws and live in harmony with the laws in our daily life, we can achieve great success. When we obey to the laws, we are governed by the nature order, which automatically removes all challenges and obstacles for us along the way. So, what are we really talking about? The universe is divine. The world, the universe, the space that we live in is divine and has a divine order. Things roll out in just a specific way. We may not always have the keys to understanding why things happened the way that they did. I mean, and this is a classic question that comes up when people are dealing with the loss of a loved one, or perhaps the global pandemic that we're living in and shutdown, slowdown of the economy, and stay at home orders. All of these things are the kind of events and the kind of happenings um, that have a divine order and divine sequence, even if we don't possess the ability to understand why and how they got set up that way. When they occur in our life, it requires a level of obedience from us. Obedience in the sense of some of these things are incontrovertible. I mean, we're not able to change the pandemic. We weren't able to stop the stay at home orders. In some instances, many of us have dealt with the fact that we weren't even able to appropriately protect our loved ones from this deadly virus, and consequences have ensued. When we get to that point, obedience can feel constricting, but in many respects, it's the way out. Recognizing that there's a divine order that's guiding us, shifting us, that order is natural and perfect in its creation as it relates to the forces that govern creation, beginning and ending in general. It may not bring that person back, it may not bring the thing that you want, but it is a place to take a level of refuge and solace. And if you can find yourself being comforted in the fact that there is an order and a design, whether you understand it or not, then you can move into the spirit of exactly what this law is speaking to us about, which is understanding that some things, however unpleasant, are still unfolding for our highest potential. And that they will play a great role in the success that we will receive or experience in the future. But the only way that that can happen is if we take the actions that are in obedience and in alignment with what is pursued. So, you know, grief is a process. The experience of a loss of a person, a loss of a job, a loss of freedom, a loss of movement, all brings on a sense of grief. But grief can also scramble your brain into making you think that you can fight your destiny and fight natural order and law. And that would be a mistake. Because natural order always wins. It's stronger than us. It's the natural order that put all the scenarios and all the factors and all the players together here for us to be alive and to be here to experience this at this time, which means that there's a divine purpose for what we're going through. And the way for us to discover the unique and infinite possibilities for each and every one of us is to ask ourselves a question or two and move ahead with those answers. And the questions we need to be asking ourselves are, what are the external factors that have called you to obey or be obedient in 2020? What's your unique mix of discomfort, sudden changes and shifts, or things that you just have to do and can't get out of that have met you in this year of 2020? And then the second question is, did you listen? And obey? Which is so funny because I had a teacher when I was very young who would always say, listen and obey. And my parents will tell you right now that that statement alone used to floor me. And even, I swear, I probably was 3 or 4, and I would come home and my mom would say, she says listen and obey. I feel like she's talking to me like a dog. That happens to many of us who are awake, who like to use our minds to muddle bust and get out of things that most people can't get into. We think our minds can get us out of anything. And now, at 41, I recognize the wisdom in a statement like listening and obeying. That's not for everything. I am not suggesting people will need to walk around being blind sheep, led from here to there. But what I am suggesting is that we all need to identify and learn the quote unquote immovable boulders that exist in our lives. The things that are just going to be what they are. They are tools that are here to teach us lessons, to help us grow in capacity. And we're not going to reach the heights that we want to, experience the level of success that we're looking for, if we don't move through or traverse through this particular circumstance or learn this lesson. And sometimes the lesson is not necessarily to be willful or to rely on your mind and your intellect to get you out of a situation. Sometimes the lesson is to submit, to obey, to roll with the flow of what's happening, however uncomfortable and disconcerting, and to ground yourself, pray, or meditate if that's what you do, so that divine wisdom and divine intelligence can tell you the next steps to take and when that will be right. But in the meanwhile, your main job is to acknowledge what is shown up in front of you and conserve your fighting energy and roll with the pathway that's being led and rolled out for you. You never know where that's going to lead you, and you certainly won't know if you're too busy fighting what is instead of submitting and allowing revelation to happen. When we do this, we align with the natural order that, as the law says, will automatically remove challenges and obstacles for us along the way. But that requires a level of trust, listening, and obedience. And in my personal opinion, that's what 2020 is about for most of us. So make sure you ask yourself the questions. What has shown up in my life that I've needed to be obedient to get to the other side? Did I listen? Or did I fight it and create more contrast, more difficulty, more challenge, and more obstacle? And if you're still in the middle of that fight, ask yourself, what do I need to do to get on to the wavelength of listening, attending, and cooperating such that I can work with the natural rhythms that are happening and allow myself to be moved back on the path that will remove these obstacles and challenges and help me to download the information that I need next for my highest good. So I hope that message has resonated with whomever is listening to this video right now. Um, we've got about 2 more months of 2020, which means 2 more months of revelation and opportunity for you to really continue to ask yourself this question and glean what you can in this historic year we're experiencing. Having said that, I want to send each and every one of you all light and love. Do make sure, if you have deeper questions about the path that you want to go down, that you check out the link in my bio to check out Eighth House Wisdom and the astrology report store that can give you your birth chart, your solar return chart, multiple transit reports, couples reports, and as well my book, Astrologically Happy Ever After, where you can use the science of astrology to start thinking about love relationships, whether you plan on dating after this coronavirus pandemic ends, or whether or not you need it for support right now to manage being in relationship in quarantine. So, signing off, it's Melissa from Eighth House Wisdom. Take care. See you next month.